So I do believe we are live. Um, just looking at a quick comment from Mark. What server are you going to be on? I do not know. If you can just confirm that you can see and hear me, we are good to go. We are here today in St. Croix, where we left off yesterday. And this is a freeware airport, and it's really not a terrible rendition of of this airport, to be honest with you. It's not the prettiest airport in the world, but this is the one place. The one time I flew out of here, this is the one the spot that we flew out of, and there's like the waiting room under here, and you just walk out to the airplane. I think my least favorite part is flying away from wherever I was. So we've got preset weather again today, just because I don't want the weather to interfere with our trip. Turn all that fun stuff off. We are going to check out the Puerto Lighthouse on Vieques, which is kind of cool. It's the only point of interest in Puerto Rico that is not on the main island, which is a little bit disappointing because there's a ton of points of interest, but just all of them are on the main Puerto Rican island. Hey, Heiko, how you doing? Good to see you. So, and the other thing about today's flight is I just realized, much to the consternation of my dog, that I forgot to feed him before I started the flight. He's going to be upset, but he'll adjust. So we'll go mixtures and props. Full forward, external power supply on, rotating beacon on. Let's go fuel pumps on. We will go fuel valves open. I don't know why I have a habit of doing this out of order. Parking brake is set, toes on the brakes, and that's one thing I was going to mention. Take a look outside, make sure there's nobody outside to kill or maim. And let's get... Oh, yeah. See, this is what happens when you don't follow checklists in a particular order. Is you forget something, and then you make a fool of yourself. Alright, manifold pressure good, oil pressure good. Left prop is clear. The correct order. Alright, we'll go mags to both. Starter hood cover closed. Fuel pressures are good. We'll turn the fuel pumps off. Fuel pressures are okay. Avionics master off. Nav and strobes coming on. We'll lean the mixtures for taxi. Transponder will squawk altitude. Yeah, like I've spent so much time in my life starting Lycoming engines and they all pretty much start the same. I mean, there is some difference. Hey, USA PR1, I actually don't. Although I suppose I could turn it on. I don't know if I can turn it on after I've already started a flight. I don't know if I can do that, actually. But now that I know you're interested, next time I do this, the other thing I could do is log on to VATSIM. I don't know if there's any controllers on VATSIM right now. I think there is, actually. Yeah, there's controllers on VATSIM. So that would be... Yeah, there's controllers on VATSIM, which would be halfway interesting and halfway problematic. But next time I will turn, if I'm not on VATSIM next time, I will turn multiplayer on. Stream's probably going to be about an hour to probably about an hour and a half. Heiko, what time is it right now in Thailand? I suppose I can Google that and see. I don't know why. Oh, it's 3:30 in the morning. That is early. So, for some reason, I have one particular program that really loves to annoy me when I'm trying to do something like flight sim. And let's see. Alright, so we've got everything going. Let's turn off the external power supply. Let's release the parking brake. And, you know, I was thinking about different things to talk about in terms of, yeah, 330 Heiko, that's crazy. One of the things you always do in an airplane is as soon as it gets moving, you test your brakes. And the reason is because if your brakes are not working, you may, depending on how the ramp is laid out, the only thing you may be able to do to stop yourself is hit something. You may inevitably hit something. And particularly if you're in a single engine airplane and the prop is the first thing that's going to hit whatever's there. Anytime you have what we call a prop strike, anytime the prop of the engine is moving and hits something, you have to do a full engine teardown by regulation, and that's going to cost you a good $25,000. So it's a very, very expensive mistake to make. So that's one to always keep in mind. All right, let's go landing lights on. Let's go flaps to takeoff. So we're going to do two things today. I'm going to go check out Vieques, which is a cool little airport, but I also want to see this point of interest. I'm going to take just a little more runway. Come down here to Echo. And the other thing we're going to do, although I don't think this really makes any sense, the other thing we're going to do is go to Culebra. And Culebra is one of the coolest approaches in the Caribbean. If you guys haven't seen this one, especially the one I'm going to do today, the, what do they call it? The, oh sure, now I can't even remember. Jump Seat Productions, what's going on? Alright, so we'll go mixtures and props full forward. Fuel pumps coming on. Flaps are set. And good Heiko. Yeah, USAPR. We will do next time. I'll make sure multiplayer is on. Just something I never think of, because I'm always on VATSIM. Alright, so heading indicator checks with the runway number. Mixtures, props full forward. Fuel pumps are on. Flaps are set. Takeoff power is coming in. Takeoff power is set. Engine instruments in the green. Airspeed's alive. 60 knots. 65 and rotate. And I keep saying I'm going to adjust my my yoke sensitivity, because it feels like it's too much of an effort to pull back to lift off. Alright, props coming back. And a forward pressure coming back. We'll go take a quick look outside. Everything is looking beautiful. Alright, let's go. Put the flaps up. Make our turnout. No turnouts below 400 feet on departure. No turns below 400 feet. That's an IFR rule. And whenever you, no matter what you're doing, if you're flying IFR, no turns below 400 feet. That guarantees you're not going to hit anything. You know, you think the procedures are kind of like, I don't know, just kind of made up. Like, you know, all this seems like it would be good. This seems okay. IFR procedures, there's 1,000 feet AGL. We'll turn our fuel pumps off, check our fuel pressure. Pressures are good. IFR procedures are very, very, very specific in how they are laid out. And so no turns below 400 feet. And it has happened where people make turns too early on departure in IMC and hit something. It happens. But that's just like one of those golden rules that I do VFR or IFR. And yeah, Culebra's runway, it certainly is 1-3. I'm trying to remember the name of this approach. Hey Veneno, how are you? What's going on? Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts now. What's the approach here? I'm gonna have to look at my own YouTube channel to figure it out. It's got a, what is it called? The Tamarindo approach. Tamarindo approach into Vieques. And I think I screwed up the GPS and sent it to Culebra first, and I did. So we're gonna go to, or no, oh, maybe I didn't. Alright. So we shall make our way. 2,300, climb at 3,000. And so this is another good one. As far as cruising altitudes go, we all know odd, east odd, west even. God knows why they. The funny thing is, the way I remember that is German. German in German, east is Ost, and so I always remember Ost odd. Be common. ATR is very common in this area, Veneno. Very common in this area. Liat, which just shut down, which is gonna then restart. Alright, 50 feet below our cruise altitude. Let's bring the props back. Bring the manifold pressure back to 23. Yeah, Liat flies ATRs. Caribbean Airlines flies ATRs. American used to fly ATRs around here. They don't anymore, unfortunately. That would be really great, but they don't. But yeah, there's a ton of ATRs in the Caribbean. The longest route for this airplane in the region. I mean, you could do, you know, Anguilla Air Services and like operators like it are pretty niche operators. I mean, they don't really do like longer than say like hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, I'm sure they fly charters to like Anguilla to St. Thomas, which would be probably, you know, an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes maybe. Sort of the flight that we did the other day. Get some IMC time here. And like, I know they do Anguilla to Antigua, Anguilla to St. Lucia, places like that, you know, but this is mostly like a short hopper. Like a really common flight in this plane is like an hour and 15 minutes at the most. I just remembered I need to put in some aileron trim. But we were talking about, I was talking about oh, Heiko, now you're gonna, now I'm confused. It's a good thing my German's better than my French. Let's see here. CDI, GPS, 317. That's really funny, Heiko. But yeah, I mean, the Islanders, like 95% of their flights are like half hour, 45 minutes. You know, the message thing out of the way here. But what I was saying about cruising altitude, so cruising altitude, the east-west cruising altitude rules only apply, well, at least in the U.S. It's possible that it's different in this part of the world. In fact, it's likely that it's different in this part of the world. But the east-west cruising altitudes only apply starting at 3,500 feet. I mean, technically starting at 3,000 feet, but 3,000 would be 3,500 would be your first west, or your first eastbound cruising altitude above 3,000. So basically, the short story is at 3,000 feet, you can go any direction you want. A lot of planes love, a lot of pilots love flying 3,000 feet no matter where they go. which is kind of weird, but yes, Veneno, absolutely. That's why I fly the ATR so much down here, and that's why I was so excited about it, is because it's an absolutely. I mean, the ATR and the Twin Otter are like the two, and as a matter of fact, I was going to say the two most common airplanes in the islands, and as a matter of fact, all the French carriers fly ATRs as well. Like they fly the ATR 42. Like I know Air Antilles flies ATR 42s. Winair has some ATR 42s now. So there's a ton of there's a ton of ATRs down here, and that's why I was so excited about that plane coming down here, or that plane coming to the sim rather. It is a great airplane. I still have yet to fly in an ATR in real life. So that is definitely something that is on my list of things to do. I was talking the other day, one thing that I want to do at some point is to take a trip down to the islands with just no place to go and nothing to do, and just literally just hopscotch around like wherever I feel like going. And I was actually looking at tickets today. I'm going to be heading down to, I think, St. Martin and Anguilla in the end of August. The end of August is my girlfriend's birthday. Hey Andrew, what's going on? Welcome back, my good man. Going to be heading to Anguilla, and I think we're going to do Anguilla and the French side of St. Martin. We've done the Dutch side of St. Martin, and I loved it. I thought it was fun. We were at Simpson Bay, which is right next to Princess Juliana Airport, so I could sit there and watch planes take off and land all day long, which was pretty cool in my opinion. And hey Wilbur, how are you? Welcome back, sir. So funny, I almost missed my own stream. Because I set it for 4 o'clock yesterday, and then today I'm sitting there about 3:10, and I was like, wait a minute, did I set that for 3:30 or 4? Oopsie. Yeah, so I think we'll be going to Anguilla and St. Martin in the end of August. I'm gonna go for about 2 weeks. I think I'm gonna go from like the 20th, which is my girlfriend's birthday, which is a Tuesday, until Labor Day, which is like 2 Mondays later. So we'll be there like maybe 13, 14 days. I think that's my plan. Heiko, I don't know if you agree with this, but so when we went to Guadeloupe, I remember looking at Guadeloupe before we went, even like a year before we went, and it seemed to me like Guadeloupe was way less expensive than the other islands. I don't know whether that's just because there's not a lot of Americans that go there, so there's not a lot of big resorts, and maybe that's why. But I thought Guadeloupe was very, very reasonably priced. I mean, I think the most we ever spent on dinner in Guadeloupe, which was at Catherine's Bar, by the way. But it was like 110 euros or something like that, and I'm talking like appetizers, drinks, dinner, dessert, more drinks. Yeah, right? I mean, I thought it was very, very reasonably priced. And even, like, accommodations were very reasonable. I mean, I thought it was and it's a cool place. I really liked Guadeloupe a lot. Yeah, Guadeloupe was a cool place, really neat island. So This is what's called laziness. When you're an instrument pilot, that's not acceptable. When I'm supposed to be cruising at 3,000, I should be cruising at 3,000, not 3,100, not 3,150. And also not on my heading. Some sloppy flying. It's one of the things about instrument training is that, like, you know, right now I'm supposed to be flying a heading of 317, and I want to be at 3,000 feet, and I'm at 3,150, weaving between 310 and 330, and that's just sloppy flying, and you can't get away with that in IFR flying. And yeah, way more French tourists than Americans. See, there you go. That makes sense. But I always, like, when people ask me how difficult was instrument training. Instrument training is I mean, it's like anything. It's you get better as you go. I mean, it's definitely challenging. It's definitely challenging. Instrument flying is easier than instrument training, which it should be. Yeah, Heiko. Americans, like, we lay out credit cards. You know what I mean? In a way that Europeans don't. I mean, we have no problem putting, you know, a $10,000 vacation on a credit card. You know, cabin 47, what's going on? So yeah, you're right about that. But yeah, so the thing about instrument flying is, or instrument training specifically, is if you're gonna do instrument training, you better start tightening up your VFR flying, like, really tight, because if you can't fly a given heading and a given altitude with your eyes open, it's going to be really difficult doing it with your eyes closed. You know, in other words, with the if your view is effectively this, which is what it is in instrument training. You know, remember my instrument instructor, because it's not like you get these huge deviations, right? You're not going from between, you know, 2,500 feet and 3,500 feet. You just kind of drift up like this. So you're at, you know, before I was at like 3,150. And I remember my instrument instructor one time looking at me and he goes, why do you tolerate that? Like, why do you let that happen? You know, if your altitude is off, fix it. You know? And you know, this type of thing. Like, I'm flying along parallel, not by much, but a little bit, flying along parallel to the course I'm flying, or the course I intend to be flying. You know, whereas I should be correcting back to get that aligned. And this is also one of the reasons why I don't use autopilot in small planes in the simulators, because I want to give myself the challenge of hand flying and keeping my stuff tight, you know. Taking the Airbus into Corfu. Corfu is a neat place. Leads to Corfu into Phoenix. Nice. Kevin, are you on Volanta? If you are, hit me up as Island Sim Pilot on Volanta, and I'll add you if we haven't done it already. Yeah, so on that, see, look at this. You get that. Oh, you know what that was? That's entering the clouds. That's why I got that upset right there. That deviation. So never flown an Airbus, Kevin. Never flown one. You should. Volanta. So if I could share my screen, I'd show. I actually could share my screen, but I don't have it set up to do it right now. But Volanta is really cool. The coolest thing about Volanta is that there's a flights page that will show you, and the other thing I didn't do is leave my mixtures. It will show you like a graphical overview of every flight you've done. It's really cool. So like the other, so I fly for 3 virtual airlines. I fly for Caribbean Virtual, which is my own. I fly for American Virtual, which is really a great virtual airline. And I fly for Lufthansa Virtual, which is also a great virtual airline. So I've got like some Europe routes, not a lot. Probably flown like maybe 20, 25 flights in Europe. The thing I like about Europe is on VATSIM is that it's got a lot more ATC, and it's a lot more intense with the ATC, which I like. It's good practice. You can do the free one, Kevin. I signed up for the payware one, but the only reason I signed up for the payware one is because they had a special, like the week after Christmas this year, where you could get it for like, I don't know, it was like $2 a month for the year or something. But the no, Lufthansa Virtual, Heiko. DLH Virtual. It's a really good virtual airline. But the only reason I got the premium one is because it was on sale right after Christmas. The free one is perfectly fine. And the only thing I really thought that would be cool to have about the premium one would be the airline schedules, but the way they do the airline schedules is really kind of weird, actually. It's not very useful. Because they have it's only searchable by like which airport, like by your departure airport. It's not really that good. So but as a general thing, Volanta is really pretty cool. So I think directly in front of us is the Puerto Lighthouse. I'm not descending very much. I'm gonna pull out some more power here. So, narrow body Airbuses. Yeah, yeah, that's what the Airbus is all about, right? Hang out and watch the plane fly itself. It's funny how is there an alternative for the 6-pack in this airplane? Yes, there is, as a matter of fact. There we go. I mean, it's not exactly. So this is actually basically the exact same setup I have in my real life Cherokee, except for I don't have Aspen. I have 2 Garmin G5s right here, and it's cool because it gives you've got the main 6-pack instruments that you would want around the outside. So when I fly this way, I do a lot. Like in the real plane, I'll do a lot of kind of glancing side to side, just to confirm. Only because my eyes are still kind of their natural tendency is the 6-pack, I guess. But I had forgotten that this has this Aspen. I actually should use it. It's good to keep the practice. So the Puerto Lighthouse should be right there, actually. So we'll go see it. That's the main island in the distance off there. And then, is that Culebra? No, I don't think so. Let me see here. Yeah, it is. That is Culebra. That's another place I'd like to see in real life. Looks like a really beautiful island. Yeah, Heiko, I think DLH Virtual has some sort of agreement with Lufthansa, with the actual Lufthansa, because I know they have something on their site about it. It's really well run. I'm gonna come just over here, over this part of the land, so that we can see the lighthouse out the left-hand side. They do, yeah, that's it right there. You can see. They do a lot of training stuff, which is some really interesting training stuff. They do across the pond sort of things, like they do training on North Atlantic routing and that sort of thing, which I know absolutely nothing about. It's a system unto its own, and this is absolutely stunning. Look at this, and there's the point of interest there. I mean, that is just amazing. It really is. How neat. So I'll bring in just a little bit of power here, and what we can do is just come out along the end of the island here, and then make a right-hand turn. We'll go straight in. The airport is just on the other side here. Man, look at this. Look at this water mask. This is just amazing. This is just amazing. Whoopsie. Just gonna take a picture of that. There we go. Yeah, it's just amazing. I want to turn off the electronic display. I don't like that. I don't know why. Certain planes I don't like an electronic instruments in. Oh yeah, I think you're probably right. 9 Yankee Tango Tango Charlie. Yeah, you're right, Andrew. Yeah, I was flying the ATR for Caribbean recently, and bring some power back up here a little bit. Just to move us along. Yeah, it's weird because the only reference that I had as an American to what Vieques was like the whole political debate about so the U.S. military used this as like a bomb practice area for decades, and needless to say, the locals were not too happy about it, which you really can't blame them. And they eventually stopped, I think, in the 90s. But that was I had no idea what Vieques was or where it was. All I knew is that it was always like that issue coming up. But it's supposedly a gorgeous island. Look at this water mass. This is just. I mean, this sort of thing is just intense. I mean, it's great. But I think Vieques is a lot like the kind of thing that I would really enjoy, like unspoiled Caribbean, you know, like no chain hotels, chain restaurants, stuff like that. Just nice little relaxing island. It's just beautiful. Look at this. It's ridiculous. Just amazing. So I get one practice landing before we do Culebra. The Culebra approach. The one I'm gonna do is I'm not even gonna do the regular one. The regular one is tricky enough. The Tamarindo approach is crazy. I actually don't really think it's a wise idea to do as a commercial operation, but they do it. And then, so when we do Puerto Rico, I'm gonna go along this south side. Maybe it makes more sense to go this way around. You know, what would that be? Counterclockwise, because then we can see everything out the left-hand side of the plane. Amazing. Alright, so I get one practice landing before I have to do the tough one. So, mixtures are rich. Once we come around the end here, the airport is sort of right by this pier here. We'll slow down just a little bit. This is a freeware airport that I've landed in Vieques before in the sim, but it's been a long time. And I just downloaded this airport today. I will go fuel pumps on. Yeah, Mark, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, they're going to start doing bi-weekly. See, there's the approach right there. There's the runway, rather, right there. They're going to start doing bi-weekly VATSIM events in the Caribbean, and we gotta all get on that and do it. It's really fun. VATSIM is not as intimidating as people make it out to be. Although I do understand, like, I understand why it would be intimidating to people. But we'll do some VATSIM training first, and we can do like a multiplayer event that's not on VATSIM. Do that. All right, nice and lined up here. 1,000 feet. I'm liking this. Alright, we go. Fuel pumps on, mixtures are rich, props full forward, seat belts are secure. Love that water. Alright, whoopsie. Well, we're into our full flap operating range, so we'll put in the second notch of flaps. That'd be about 1,000 feet. At like 3 miles. 300 feet a mile is a good gauge for distance and altitude on an approach. Alright. Mixtures props forward, fuel pumps around, flaps are set. So this is actually, to me, one of the most difficult approaches, because long straight-in approaches require you to be precise for a long period of time. That's challenging. It's a lot easier to make 2 turns at 500 feet and then, you know, base the final and you're there, rather than trying to hold a glide slope for 5 minutes. I mean, longer straight-in approaches are not as easy as you would think. So I'm kind of hunting for one red here. See the pappies on the left-hand side, no, way too fast. That is called too much energy. Still looking for one red. Might not get it. Alright, 8 knots. And there we go. Yeah, I need to adjust especially going into Culebra, I need to adjust this a little bit, otherwise Culebra is going to be even harder than it's already going to be. So this is a cool little airport. I like this airport. I love any airport that's near or on the water. My favorite. So this is a freeware airport from flightsim.to. I think this is pretty cool. Alright, let's lean the mixtures, put the flaps up. Fuel pump's coming off. And what I'm gonna do, just taxi right back down to the end here. But before I do that, just gonna change my controls here a little bit. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Because that's why I've been having a little bit of trouble. There we go. Extremity dead zone. Let's take a little bit off there. Let's try 8%. Maybe a little bit more. So that's how you kind of take the twitchiness out of a control, is using the extremity dead zone, which doesn't really make sense. But how do you know the BM2? So touch port off the BM2. You know what? Heiko, I had a conversation with the developer about a couple things, particularly the fuel pumps. The fuel pumps were almost impossible to map. It took a lot of figuring to get the fuel pumps to work, because he had his own. Thanks, Wilbur. He had his own setup, his own way of doing things, and I don't know if you know the program FSUIPC, which is allows you to set up all your peripherals, your yoke and your throttles and all that stuff. But it allows you to get into 10 times the depth that most people need. But when the sim first came out, the controls were not very good. Like, you couldn't really map things well, and so FSUIPC was the perfect way to do it. And I had a chat with the guy who John, can't remember his name. John something is he's a developer of FSUIPC, which has been around for like 20 years. It's been around forever. And he basically told me that the way the Islander mapped certain things was wrong. And this guy knows what he's talking about. And so if he says it's wrong, it's wrong, because this is what he does. And so I told the developer for the Islander, that I was having this problem, and he just really didn't care. And so I have this started. It might be. See, the weird thing about this starter is it's the flip switch. It's the right-left flip switch, which might make it a little bit, might make it different than standard, I guess I would call it. I can show you real quick how I have it mapped in the sim. Let's see, controls options. Let's see, how do I have it mapped? Oh, you know what? How do I have it mapped? Master battery, flight instruments. Okay, so that's how I have it. I have it avionics master 1 and 2 on off, and I just use the switch on my Bravo, on my Honeycomb Alpha. So I actually don't have them set. No, that's the master switch. I'm talking about, that's the master switch. You're talking about the starter. Where do I have the starter? Magneto. I don't have it set, as a matter of fact. I do it manually. That's it. So I have the magnetos um, mapped. I have the avionics and mastered and battery switch and everything mapped. But the starter, I flip it manually. I just go left and right like that, which is not ideal. It's kind of a pain, actually. 4K Aviation, how you doing? Been a subscriber for a while. Hey, I appreciate it, man. That's awesome. Hey, I really appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me. Thank you. That's and I've said this before on streams. If this is your first time on, you haven't heard me say it, but like, whenever somebody comes on and says, you know, or even in comments to the videos, you know, and says something like you just did, it really means a lot to me because, you know, so much of what we do is kind of like, you know, between you and your computer. You're not really interacting with people, and I know the difference that these things have made for me, but you know, to hear that it makes a difference for other people is great, and I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. Mixtures, props, full forward flaps are set. Heiko, if there's a way to do it, it can be done with FSU IPC because you can do anything with that program. It's just figuring it out. And if you email the developer, he'll chat with you about how to get things set up. Ah, SX Airport Design. I didn't see that. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, Kevin, my Volante username is Island Sim Pilot. Easy as pie. So let's go. Fuel pumps on. Mixtures and props full forward. Flaps are set. Alright, let's go do the fun one. Alright. Engine instruments in the green. Airspeed is alive. And one of these days I want to do a single engine flight. 70 knots. Yeah, this is much better with that little adjustment on the controls. I want to do a single engine airplane flight stream. And I want to talk to you guys about the kinds of things we think about when making a departure like this, for example. Because in this departure, if you see, there's nowhere to land, right? You can't reasonably expect to get back to the runway unless you're at least 500 feet if the engine quits. Props 25 there. So if you're taking off out of here and there's 1,000 feet AGL, we'll turn the fuel pumps off, check the fuel pressures are good. If you take off out of here and your engine quits at 300 feet, you're going in one of two places. You're going in the drink or you're going in the trees. It's that simple. And you have to think about that before you take off, because you cannot try to make that decision. You have to have that decision made before that happens. And that's one of the more interesting things about flying, and the biggest difference between sim flying and real flying is in sim flying, of course, there's no consequences. But I know that we all try to bring as much realism as we can to sim flying, and that's one of the things that we can add to our sim flying to make it more realistic is to talk about things like that, talk about pre-departure planning and that sort of thing. Let me get leveled off. This is another thing that is much easier to do in real life than in a sim, is trimming. In real life, trimming takes 10 seconds at the most, because you do it by feel. And in the sim, you have to do it by vertical speed indicator, which is a pain. Alright, let me see here. Ghost Dog, what's going on? 4K aviation, been learning the ATR. Yeah, you know what? 4K, to me, the ATR is, what I really like about it is it's a transport plane, but it hand flies so well. I mean, you're flying final approach at 105, 110 knots. So it's not like coming down final at 150 like in the 737. I've got probably about 1,000 hours in 737 too, and it still can be frustrating landing that airplane well. Whereas the ATR, for lack of a better term, flies like an airplane. You know, it just flies like an airplane. You know, I love the ATR. Essex County. Yeah, Ghost Dog from FS 2004. This really is. Nailani, how are you, sir? Welcome aboard. This is awesome. Getting the band back together. This is great. And good to see some new faces around as well. It's fantastic. Yes. The ATR is a phenomenal airplane. It really is. You know, there's some bugs that I still wish they would work out, but you know, hopefully, as we go, they'll get there. So, all right. So runway 13. So we're right about on a right base for this right now, and Culebra. This one is interesting. So the standard approach is to come from the other side, and there's like a V in the valley right here that you fly down to approach and land. And it's tricky because it's got a little bit of a turn. Got a little bit of a decent, probably a 45-degree turn on short final going down between this two sides of this valley. E3N, what's going on? I have not seen any missing water masks. The water masks so far have been awesome everywhere that we've been flying. But the approach that I'm going to do is they call it the Tamarindo approach, and you come right over the edge of this hill, basically at minimum controllable airspeed, and you like literally just crawl like 50 feet over the top of the hill and then just drop. Like it's like a roller coaster. It's like the start of a roller coaster when they just drop you. And they do this in like I know Air Sunshine and like places like that. The Puerto Rican operators do this in real life, and I don't think they should. I don't think it's a good idea to do this in real life, but they do it. And you know, passengers, they're either terrified or think it's funny, but I don't think it's a good idea, and you'll see why. You'll see why. So, Ray Romero, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? Yeah, E3N. I've got live weather turned off just because otherwise it's gonna be, like you said, the weather is really pretty crazy. So mixtures and props full forward. We go fuel pumps on, and so I have to get to this ledge right here at about 800 feet, and preferably somewhere around 70 knots. And then hope for the best. So Heiko, I'm not familiar with that. I'm gonna have to look that up. Yeah, this what I'm doing right now. This one I'm doing right now is tricky. Alright, there's 85. And we're gonna do 80 knots. Alright guys, this is the Tamarindo approach. I prefer to be closer to 70 knots when we come over that hill. It doesn't feel like we're doing nothing. And the other thing is, you can see I'm holding the yoke back because I want to be able to let it go to drop the nose. You always want to hold. If you need to descend, it's always better to release pressure than trying to push the nose forward. It's always better to try and release back pressure. It's just a little bit more consistent. Alright. I gotta get some. So imagine doing this in real life. You can't even see the runway yet. And am I in the wrong hill? No, I'm not in the wrong hill. Okay. And I'm high, believe it or not. Gonna bring some power out. And what we're gonna do is use vertical energy here. Power is all the way out. And drop. Here we go. Yeah, this is actually pretty decent right now. So, oopsie daisy. It's not too bad. Not on center line, but not too bad. But they do that in real life with passengers on board, and I just don't think that's a real good idea. I just don't think that's a real good idea. And, hey Brew Pilot, what's going on? And, I'll show you real quick so this is the airport from SLH Sim Designs. And this is another, let's go mixtures. Mixtures lean for taxi. We'll put the flaps up, fuel pumps off. And, again, it's like a small Caribbean airport. It's not that, it's not an elaborate airport or anything. They did a really, really nice job. Like, all the interior is set. It's really pretty cool. They did a really nice job on this one. This is actually one of my favorite airports, and I really enjoy doing that approach. It's pretty much an adventure. So I do believe I'll probably wrap it up here in Culebra for today, and then we'll do the same thing tomorrow, and we'll hit Puerto Rico tomorrow. That sounds like a plan for you guys. And if for no other reason than the fact that my dog is not happy with me right now, because I forgot to feed him before I went flying. So let's go. Let's get ourselves turned here. Alright, there's tow brake set. Mixtures to idle cutoff. Throttles are idle. Set the parking brake. Alright, fuel pumps are off. Flaps are up. We'll turn our lights off. Avionics master off before you turn the mags off. Buddy of mine who's a aviation mechanic told me always turn the avionics off before you turn the mags off. I forget why, but I trust him. Put the boarding steps in the chocks, and we'll go doors open. And there we go. Yeah. Brew Pilot, I agree. I think, and Heiko, yeah, gives you some sleep. Hey, 4K Aviation, that's awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'd be glad to have you back. But yeah, so what you're doing is you're coming, and the thing is, I understand why they're doing it, right? You come right over here and drop like that. I understand why they're doing it, because if you're a commercial operation, especially if you're a small commercial operation, you've got 2 engines running, like, this might only take you an extra 3 minutes to do this, to come around the other side and come in the way you're supposed to. But if you're doing this, 800 times a year, 3 minutes times 800 is a lot of fuel, you know, and they're just trying to save some money. I get that. But the one thing about airplanes is airplanes love to break at the worst possible time. And if you do something like that, there's not a lot of room for error. And if anything goes wrong, you know, you lose an engine doing that, you're gone. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't react. You know, I just don't like the idea. You know, but it is what it is. But again, this is a really sweet little airport. This is a good time. So, guys, I really appreciate everybody coming out for the flight today. Casas, Heiko, Mark, 4K, Kevin 47, Ghost Dog, Nailani, E3N. Good to see you back, man. Ghost Dog, Ray. Appreciate it, man. Heiko, I hope you get some sleep. Ghost Dog, Brew Pilot, you guys are fantastic. Chris, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it, guys. You make this a lot of fun, and I suppose I'm just gonna quit while I'm ahead today because I pulled off the Tamarindo approach live. So, thanks for coming along, guys. Enjoyed having you, and tomorrow's Friday. We'll do it again. We'll do it, yeah, 3:30. I think is probably a pretty good time. And yeah, Heiko, same time. Ghost Dog, we'll see you tomorrow. You too, man. I really appreciate it. Be well. I know my track IR is like going all over the place, but this would be a cool little island to visit, wouldn't it? I think this would be a fun place to see. But okay, okay, Ray. Awesome. We'll see you tomorrow, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. And thanks for joining. We'll see you guys tomorrow.